Welcome to the I Get Better podcast with your hosts, Charlene Renee and Phaedra Smith, where we discuss topics related to life, love, mental, physical, and spiritual health, and how we can all get better together.
Welcome back to I Get Better. We are here once again.
Working on today's topic, which is I get better when I accept.
Yes, we definitely need to get into this topic of acceptance.
Well, I think it's funny because one of our shows was on forgiveness, and I think acceptance, it ties into forgiveness a lot. With
Definitely. Definitely, because until we accept the thing, how can we, even practice forgiveness of it?
Right.
And in this world, there are things we must accept in order to move forward.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm like, but I want my way, and I don't want to do it. Like
sometimes, that's all the time. Human nature is wanting your way and wanting things the way you want them when you want them. So whether we like it or not, it's kind of like when we talked about patience. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to accept some things. Maybe dragging, kicking, and screaming, you have to accept some things. But once you acknowledge the fact that it is what it is, it makes room for moving past it. So until we do that, there's not a whole lot we can do with change. So let's get it. So talking about acceptance. So what does that mean to accept something? What does it mean for you, Phaedra?
For me, a huge part of acceptance is I have to remind myself to stay in reality, because a lot of times acceptance really is hard for me because I'm a fixer by nature. I'm a healer. And a lot of times I go back to, well, what else can I do to make this go the way that I think it should go? And so, you
said that in such a nice way. I feel like I'm a controller. You said fixer and healer. I'm like, I'm a controller. So.
No. I mean, of course.
I'm not a fixer and a healer.
Well, because a part of it, this is what I'm saying. I think you are also. I think a part of being a fixer and a healer is this element of knowing when you cannot fix things. And it becomes a control issue when you continue to feel like you know the best way and you don't accept things. In a very practical way for me, just even as a therapist, I have to go into the situation knowing that my job is to help someone to reach their potential, but I cannot control the outcome of this situation. And so accepting that I cannot control things is a huge thing. For me, my definition really is, it goes back to what my dad told me at one point, is when somebody shows you who they are, you have to believe them. It's very much like staying in reality and not seeing what I want to see. Maybe I want things to be different or whatever. I can no longer be ignorant about a thing. Once I see what it is, I have to believe it. And I have to stay planted in reality. I have to remind myself too, I need to accept this as it is, because I cannot control or fix everything.
Right. Yeah, I look at it in the same way. It's like, it is what it is. For me, it means to just receive it as it is, no change, no flex, and also believe it to be true. You receive and you believe that this is what it is. And failing to do that can cause a lot of problems in life when you just refuse to accept some things. Now, there are times where you shouldn't accept things and you should make an effort to change something or try to push past the situation and make it and alter it in a way. But there are other situations where you shouldn't waste your time trying to change it. And we have to be able to discern the difference between those two circumstances.
Yeah. Like on a personal note, I know I've had relationships in my life where I have had trouble accepting that person had changed and it was not a healthy relationship for me anymore. So a part of my struggle was that I was holding on to past fond memories. Well, unfortunately, sometimes you have to cut those. because a lot of times we stay planted in toxic things because we hold on to the fond memories, or not just the fond memories, but the hopes and dreams of the future. So we don't accept the present.
Yeah. So you either living in the past or you living in the expectation of the future and not living in the present.
Right.
That's true. I think I do that a lot. Like I miss what's really going on because I'm looking at how things used to be or how I hope that they will be in the future, and ignore what's going. Well, I won't say I ignore it, but I don't always readily accept it. So I definitely have to get better at that. It goes back to not wanting to be uncomfortable, not wanting to experience a painful thing or a negative thing. You know, we want good things and we want people to be good. We want situations to work out for the best. We don't want to experience anything bad or anything unpleasant. And that's just how we are. And that keeps us from dealing when we need to deal, and living and kind of deceiving ourselves in denial and frustration when we fail to accept things.
Do you have like the Webster's Dictionary of Acceptance? I just wonder if it lines up with what we are sort of saying.
I have a general definition. Like essentially it's like to accept something as true or a fact, or to believe something as true or a fact is acceptance. And also to be received, like for example, you're accepted into a college, you know, or you're accepted at a job or a position. So not only to believe something to be true, but also to be received, to accept a job offer, to accept, you know, an offer for something is to receive it.
So also maybe to accept or receive the information that a job is not for you or a relationship is no longer for you. I think it goes along with that definition.
And then also looking at how a good example of when things are difficult to accept is really when you look at death or a loss of a relationship. Those are things that are oftentimes difficult to accept because they're very unpleasant, they're very painful, they're very permanent a lot of the time. So it's like accepting it means that I have to feel the pain of that thing fully.
Right.
So I want to delay that pain as much as I can. So I'm going to refuse to accept this. I'm going to deny it. I'm going to refuse it so that I can avoid the pain. But really, we don't realize a lot of time that leads to more pain. That leads to that inner torment that we don't know is coming. But we think that we're avoiding that greater level of pain. Like when I acknowledge that this relationship is gone or this situation isn't happening the way that I want it to, then I have to feel the pain that comes along with that. And human nature is to seek pleasure, avoid pain by any means necessary. So now that I've agreed that this is true and this is a fact, now I have to deal with that pain that comes along with it. If it's a negative thing, again, anything positive, we have no problem accepting. Oh, I applied for this job. They offered me the job. I accept the job. Yes, I agree. Give me the money. You know, give me the job. I wanted this. Or someone's proposing to marry you and they wanted to marry you and you want to get married. You accept the proposal because it's a good thing. It's something you wanted. You know, hopefully somebody proposes to you. It's someone that you want to be married to. But those are things that the good things are easily, readily acceptable. But then we also have those things that we kind of tell ourselves we refuse to accept. Like, I will not accept this. I'm not gonna accept it, and this will be the way I want it to be, and it will change because I said so, because I refuse to accept it. And then you end up just spinning your wheels trying to avoid accepting something. Like you said, if someone's showing you who they are, you refuse to believe it, and then you look like a fool at the end of the day.
Well, you feel like one of the things that I'm gonna be transparent. So one of the things my therapist, like in her own little nice, sweet way, called me out on is choosing to stay in this friendship. And even though after years and years of the same cycle, she said that she often asks some of her other clients that have gone through similar situations with similar types of people, if this was a friend instead of a family member, would you choose to have them in your life? And the people would oftentimes say no. And so then she's told me, she said, but in your situation, this is a friend and you are choosing to have this person in your life, as opposed to accepting what you know to be true after years and years of the same cycle. And so you're choosing to have this toxic situation in your life. And so I had to really question that and ask myself, why am I not choosing to see this person for how they are? And why am I not willing to accept the fact that this friendship is really not a friendship anymore? And so it goes back to, like, honestly, just I don't want to grieve anything. I hate losing things. I hate loss. I don't even like leaving my jacket at somebody's house. You know, like
But that's something you can get back. I think.
No, but I don't even like. I won't. No, I don't want to leave nothing at nobody's house for fear that I won't ever get it back again. I don't like losing people for fear that I'm missing out on something or that I'm making a mistake.
Well, that's a good point. You said for fear that you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of it. If I accept this, then I'm missing out on a better thing, or the thing I think I want at the time. And not knowing that, well, maybe if I accept this, something better is to come, or there's a lesson that is to be learned from accepting this, which eventually leads to something better. And that is a scary thing to, accept it as it is and trust that it's for my good, or it's okay even if it's not for my good. Everything in life doesn't have to be for my good, and that's okay.
I don't like that, but
no, we're not gonna like it. But everything in life we're not gonna like. That's something we teach our kids. I have to teach my kids all the time. Like, you're not gonna like everything. We make our kids accept a lot. Like, no, you're not gonna get McDonald's. Accept it. Get over it. We driving by and you're not getting none. Like, that's just what it is. What it is. I'm not stopping there today. So we have to accept a lot as children, but as adults, we feel like, well, I'm in control now. I don't have to accept nothing.
I'm gonna eat my dessert first.
I can get McDonald's anytime I want. Like, what if I got the money, I can stop. I can eat it anytime. So kind of get it indignant about you. Like, I don't have to deal with this. This isn't what I want for my life, and I don't have to have it. But sorry, boo-boo, you do. Like, you need to accept that you have to go through it all your life. You're going to have to accept some things, or you're just going to be hurting yourself. You're going to end up with mental and physical pain and stress from failing to accept things. So I kind of want to talk about what are the types of things I need to accept in life.
Well, you brought up something when you mentioned, like, the times when we can't have certain things. And I thought about financially. I've been working on this whole budgeting thing, and it is hard to accept that you cannot buy something sometimes, even as an adult, because we're used to like indulging in the things that we want. And so to say, no, I'm not going to get this, and accepting that maybe you have new boundaries or limits on your life can be difficult, because everybody got credit cards, loans, people living, beyond their means. And I think part of it is the failure to accept that I can only afford where I am right now. A lot of times we don't have to, because we can get credit cards.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But you're right. Like, accept this is what I have. This is what I can get. This is my season in life. I'm not everybody. Well, not everybody. Some people are faking it, but this might not be my season to, live my best life and go on trips and travel and buy them all out. It is what it is. This is the money I have, and this is the money I can spend, and accepting that it's okay. And a lot of the time that we're gonna have a whole show about that, I think, about that finance piece, because that deals with comparison, that deals with keeping up with the Joneses sometimes, that deals with the grass is greener on the other side, wants versus needs. A lot, I think, goes into that. Maturity goes into it. But yeah, accepting where you are in life is definitely the start. Accepting this is me, accepting yourself, accepting who you are, and this is my life, this is what it is. I don't have to be something else. I don't have to look like something else. I don't have to pretend to satisfy or appease other people, whether it's financially, materials, things, or anything like that. But accepting, another thing that we definitely need to accept is the things we cannot change, and that goes a long way. You cannot change everything. You cannot change people. They have to want to change themselves. You can't change what happened in the past. We can't change things that we've done or we wish we would have done or said. We just have to accept those things as what's done is done.
Yeah.
And when we can do that, it goes a long way in life, when we can accept the things. Like the serenity prayer says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That's the first thing that it says. Is accept the things I cannot change. And that is hard. I think that's a source of grief and anguish for a lot of us, is wanting things to change. And when they don't, it's not good. We are upset to the max.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was looking at the definition of acceptance, and none of it sounds negative, although the act of acceptance can feel very hard and bring feelings that make us uncomfortable. But none of the definition, the act of taking or receiving something being offered, a favorable reception, approval or favor, the act of assenting or believing, none of it is negative. I literally picture acceptance as two hands being open to receive something. But I think about it, and a lot of times our hands are clenched. And so that's one of the reasons why it's hard to accept things, because a part of it is an act of releasing control, which means that I'm allowing myself to let go of things and stay open to also accept things and to receive things. So when you're accepting and receiving things, your hands have to be open, which means that I don't have any control over the things that end.
Yeah, and that was the second point I was going to make, is another thing we need to accept is the things we cannot control. I cannot control many of things, even though I want to control many of things. Everything, I want control. Control brings me peace and security, and it's like a warm blanket around me when I can control something. And not being able to accept those things I cannot control, again, just leads to frustration in my life. I need to be able to accept the things I cannot control and focus my attention on the things that I can control.
What are some things that you can control, Charlene?
Well, my mouth is one of them. My response to situations. I cannot control what people do or what people say, but I can control my response to a situation and what I do and what I say. So I am in complete control of myself.
Yeah.
Me. Nobody else. Yeah. Even if I try to control some other people in other situations, really just in my response to how I react to something that happens, good or bad. However, it's not always about responding to a negative situation, but even positive situations, I'm in control of the decisions that I make and the actions that I take in life, and I have to accept responsibility for those things. But the third thing I want to talk about is something I need to accept. I think we all do, is the things that change. And I think you made a good point when you talked about that friendship relationship that was no longer what you thought it should be, or you weren't able to accept that. And understanding that people, relationship, how things are, the way things are, they change. And it's hard to accept change sometimes because we want things to just be the way they used to be. Now, if it's a bad thing, we definitely want it to change. But if it's a good thing, we don't want it to change. We want things to just be the way they used to be. That nostalgia is there, and it's difficult to accept. Like, even when they change stuff online, like, man, you kind of like get used to something, and then they revamp it and remodel it, and you're like, ew, I don't like that. Like, I remember when Facebook used to be this way, and I used to be able to just do this. Now it's this. I don't like that. Like, go back to how it used to be. Like, why don't we just do things the way we used to be? Like, why we gotta change? Why we gotta update the iPhone all the time? Like, you just gotta every other week they changing this thing. Like, leave it alone.
I mean, honestly, I have stopped watching shows because they made too many changes, and I couldn't accept it.
And that's like, I mean, that definitely, TV has changed, music has changed. Like, what's going on? Why they gotta be messing with the program? Like, it was good. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, change is difficult to accept, definitely when it comes to people. Oh man, it's hard to accept when people change on you. And you've gotten used to them being one way. You've gotten used to your relationship being one way. You used to spend time together all the time. You used to talk all the time. And now all of a sudden you don't. That's a tough pill to swallow, is that the relationship has changed.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of like grief that comes along with it because, you know, like we said before, there's a history, and then there's inevitably we all have like hopes of what the future might look like. But really, I think staying grounded in reality and being like, you know, well, right now, this person is not in a good space for me for whatever reason. And accepting that you might not even know what's going on with that person that's causing them to be like that. But I think a part of acceptance and a part of like living your best life is remaining open. So remaining open to change, knowing that like if I let something go, then I'm also saying that I'm allowing myself to receive something new and something better for myself.
And you know, grief is not a bad thing. I think it's the first step to healing and moving forward in some cases. But we always want to avoid that pain, and avoiding that pain delays us experiencing the pain of grief, or delays us healing and moving forward. And sometimes change is good, and we don't see it from the beginning all the time, but later we look back and you say, you know, that wasn't such a bad thing. I don't have to understand everything up front. I don't have to understand why they changed the format on this website, but in the end, I might come to say, oh, you know, that's cool. We couldn't do that before, but now we can. So now it's not so bad. But it took some getting used to. Right. And you can't get used to something until you accept it. I can't get used to anything until I take the first step to accept it. And then just take that time, apply that patience to the situation, and then, you know, you never know, it could be for your good.
Yeah, I think about when you talk about change and being able to accept change, that quote, that change happens when the pain of remaining the same becomes greater than the pain of change, from Tony Robbins. And I really like think about that, because there is an element of pain that comes along with accepting something, accepting change. And there's going to be pain no matter what sometimes. Painful to stay in that situation. It also is painful to leave that situation. But which one is worth it? You know, which one is going to be for your good in the end?
I think acceptance is going to be for your good in the end, because again, It goes back to, it's already happened. It's done. It is what it is. So not wanting to accept that pain, it really doesn't change anything, whether you accept it or not. It's what's done is done. So inevitably, that pain is going to be going with the flow, not fighting the current, not trying to swim against the flow of the current or go in the opposite direction of the flow of traffic. Is definitely going to be a lot easier than trying to fight against.
100% agree. I think that we've talked about people or events, but we have to acknowledge that sometimes that we've changed, and accepting that we we've changed, that life or freedom has happened inside of us, and there's some things that have happened inside of us that are changing, and accepting that we've also changed. And when I change, obviously things around me should reflect that sometimes, which means the loss of relationships or a different job or career or whatever, and being able to be brave enough to accept that is a huge part also.
That's a good point, because I didn't even think about that. While I'm changing, I'm not necessarily focusing my attention on the things around me. So I might expect that while I'm working on some things and changing some things, that everybody else is sitting still and nothing else is going on outside of my world.
Right.
And then when I come out of it on the other side, I might be surprised to see that things are different.
Right. I had this situation where an old friend of mine, I was being very genuine, and the person was thinking that I was being passive aggressive, and that really burned me up on the inside. And I thought to myself, then I had to really reflect back that sometimes people, like, I have changed a lot, thank God. And there's people around me that can't accept that I've changed. And as opposed to seeing that maybe I've changed and I'm being genuine, maybe because my personality or things about my personality have changed, they see it as fake. And so a part of this whole acceptance is also saying, I accept that I have changed, and I have to acknowledge that other people might not like it and other people may not have changed. And so being okay with saying, you know what, unfortunately, if that person is not going in the same direction as me and they can't accept me for who I am, then that's something that I have to remain open to letting go of, unless that person is willing to accept me for who I am, the new version of who I am. So there's some shedding that goes along with acceptance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, not everyone can go with you on your journey of changing, and accepting that is difficult because it's a loss. And you can't go with everybody else in the way that they change. You know, someone might outgrow you, and that's okay. They might level up too, and you just not there yet. So that's something to accept as well. When you are the one being left behind.
Yeah. It's been difficult for me to accept myself sometimes, that I have changed in my mental health. I have grown a lot, because it means that some relationships in my life don't really fit like they used to. Even just telling myself that, hey, I'm healthier now. And so being okay with accepting that other things might change, or my relationships with people might look different, or even just my way of thinking. I'm no longer ignorant to certain things, and accepting that my thoughts are going to be a little different, and my reactions are going to be different, and not feeling pressured to go back to ignorance. You know, sometimes that's a hard walk to walk, is acceptance of yourself.
But it's better when you get to the other side. It's a hard walk, but once you get to the end of that walk, it's always for your good.
Well, hopefully you don't care. At the end of the day, you just like, you know, I am who I am. I love myself, and you can take it or leave it. In the midst of growth, sometimes there is pain.
Yeah, that's why they call it growing pains.
Oh, touche.
That's where that comes from. Yeah. Yeah.
The education.
Right. Yes. I went to college. Yes. I read a book or two. But yeah, so let's get better at acceptance. Let's do it so we can grow.
Yeah.
It's there. Take it or leave it.
Yes.
But really, you just have to take it. There's no such thing as leaving it when it comes to acceptance.
Yeah, and allow yourself to feel that pain, and reminding yourself that tomorrow will be better. And every day you might have to remind yourself that tomorrow will be better.
So much pain. We gotta stop talking about all this pain we gotta keep feeling. We gotta start talking about some pleasurable stuff. But
well, the pleasure happened after you accept it. I mean, you gotta go sometimes through the pain of, I can't control this situation, can be painful. For some people just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, some people it's very easy for them to accept things, but others not so much. So we'll definitely continue to work on getting better at acceptance.
All right. Well, that's our time for today. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. You can also send questions and topics that you want to discuss on the show. So until next time, guys, let's keep getting better so we can do better in order to be better. All right, guys.
See you next time. Well, we won't see you. We'll talk to you. All right.